Consider, for a moment, a battery that could recharge an electric vehicle in minutes, not hours. One that could endure not a few thousand charging cycles, but 100,000. And one that holds a significantly higher energy density than our current technologies permit. It sounds, for all intents and purposes, like a work of fiction. Yet, a company known as Donut Lab asserts it has achieved this. The central problem, however, is that their claims appear to violate the established principles of condensed matter physics. In our inquiry today, we will explore a rather radical theoretical framework that attempts to resolve this impossibility, a hypothetical construct called the Pollack Battery, which is itself derived from a fascinating, though unconventional field of theoretical physics known as topological field dynamics, or TGD. To properly examine this, our investigation will proceed as follows. We'll begin with the technological puzzle itself. Then we will delve into the two key theoretical concepts required for a potential solution. First, the Pollack effect, and second, the broader TGD framework from which it draws its full meaning. With those elements in place, we can construct the model of our hypothetical battery. And finally, we'll consider the rather compelling argument that nature itself may have already perfected this technology within biological systems. So, let us first define the conundrum we face. It centers on a series of truly remarkable performance claims made by the Donut Lab concerning their novel solid-state battery. You see, the performance metrics they report seem to achieve something that, according to our standard physical models, should simply not be possible. Within the field of battery engineering, there exists a well-known and rather frustrating trade-off, often referred to as the trilemma. You can optimize a battery for rapid charging, or for a long operational life, or for high energy density. However, within the confines of conventional physics, you cannot achieve all three simultaneously. Any significant gain in one of these areas invariably necessitates a compromise in the others. And it is here that the claims from Donut Lab become so scientifically interesting. We are not discussing minor incremental gains. While a standard battery might charge in an hour, they report a full charge in approximately 5 minutes, a claim that has been independently verified. A cycle life of 100,000 charges is orders of magnitude beyond current standards. But the true scientific anomaly lies in that final row. Forcing that much current into a battery that quickly should generate destructive amounts of heat. And yet, while significant heat is produced, the battery apparently endures it with minimal degradation. That is the core paradox we must seek to explain. Quite understandably, the broader scientific community has met these reports with a healthy degree of skepticism. As the authors of our source material state, it is exceedingly difficult to reconcile these performance claims with the standard model of condensed matter physics. Therefore, if conventional theory proves insufficient, we are compelled to search for a more unconventional explanation. Our search begins with the first component of our theoretical puzzle, a peculiar and fascinating phenomenon in physical chemistry known as the Pollack effect. Put simply, the Pollack effect describes a process for creating a natural battery from little more than water and a suitable surface. When water is placed adjacent to a hydrophilic, or water-loving material, and a small amount of energy is introduced, such as infrared radiation, something quite remarkable happens. The water molecules near the surface self-organize into an ordered gel-like phase, forming a distinct negatively charged layer. This is called the exclusion zone. The process effectively separates negative charges from their positive counterparts, establishing a stable voltage, the very definition of a battery. So, how is this charge separation actually maintained? Well, first, an input of energy forms that negative exclusion zone. But for every negative charge, a positive charge, in this case a proton, must be accounted for. Where do these protons go? It is at this point that the TGD framework makes a truly radical proposal. It suggests these protons are not merely diffusing into the bulk water. Instead, they are channeled into what is termed a dark phase of matter, traveling along non-physical conduits called magnetic flux tubes. This exotic transport mechanism is what theoretically allows the charges to remain macroscopically separated, creating a stable potential. Now, to make sense of terms like dark protons and magnetic flux tubes, we must zoom out and examine the larger theoretical edifice they belong to. This is the TGD framework, and it introduces some rather profound ideas about the nature of quantum mechanics itself. At the core of TGD is the concept of large HF phases. In essence, the theory postulates that under specific conditions, quantum effects, which are ordinarily confined to the microscopic realm of atoms and particles, can manifest on a macroscopic, even classical scale. This would permit phenomena like perfectly lossless energy transfer over observable distances. The theory further speculates that this effective Planck constant, HF, might serve as a quantitative measure of a system's organizational complexity, or, as the author suggests, its IQ. And where precisely are these macroscopic quantum effects said to occur? TGD proposes the existence of a magnetic body, a non-local field of energy that is associated with, and indeed is said to control, the ordinary physical system. One might conceptualize it as an energetic blueprint or a non-local control system for the visible matter. It is within this magnetic body that the magnetic flux tubes are said to exist, functioning as frictionless superhighways for the transport of our dark protons. Very well, we now have the requisite theoretical components before us: the Pollack effect, which initiates a charge separation, and the TGD framework, which provides a magnetic body and a lossless dark transport mechanism. Let us now synthesize these parts into a coherent model that might resolve our battery conundrum. This leads us to the critical question: how does this admittedly exotic quantum model address the very concrete, real-world problems of the battery trilemma? How does it allow for ultra-fast charging without the system being destroyed by ohmic heating and the mechanical stress of ion transfer? The proposed solution resides in a fundamentally different mode of charge transport. In a conventional battery, ion conduction is subject to ohmic resistance. It's an energetic scrum, full of collisions, friction, and wasted energy that manifests as heat. In the TGD model, however, the ions transition to a dark phase and travel along those magnetic flux tubes. The transport becomes coherent and lossless. There are no collisions, no material resistance, and therefore negligible heat generation from the transport itself. This would be analogous to achieving room temperature superconductivity, allowing for a massive flux of charge to move nearly instantaneously without causing thermal or mechanical damage to the battery's structure. Now, if the ions are primarily being transported through this separate magnetic body, a logical question arises. What then is the function of the physical electrolyte itself? In this model, its role becomes far more nuanced than merely being a medium for ion conduction. The electrolyte is proposed to serve two distinct and crucial functions. First, its hydrophilic properties are what initiate the Pollack effect, creating the charge potential that facilitates the transfer of ions to the magnetic body. It functions as a catalyst for the quantum process. Second, the electrolyte itself is where the energy is ultimately stored in the chemical form, much in the same way that biological systems store metabolic energy in molecules such as lipids and proteins. At this stage, one might be tempted to dismiss all of this as highly abstract, theoretical speculation. But what if a working prototype of this very technology has existed for billions of years, inside every living thing? The proponents of this model point to biology as the ultimate proof of concept. The proposition is as elegant as it is profound, that every living cell is, in effect, a functional Pollack battery. Let us consider the observable facts. A cell maintains a stable voltage across its membrane. It actively separates positive and negative charges, and it utilizes ion currents to power its vast array of functions, all within a water-based, hydrophilic environment. The parallel is not just close, it is arguably exact. The one-to-one correspondences presented here are quite striking. The intra- and extracellular fluids serve as the negative and positive electrodes. The cell membrane itself functions as the electrolyte. A nerve impulse is functionally equivalent to the discharge of the battery. And the energy source? It is our own metabolic energy, derived from nutrients, which continuously recharges these trillions of microscopic biological batteries. And so we are left with a final and rather profound question. What if biological life is not merely an intricate cascade of chemical reactions, but is in fact operating on a deeper, macroscopic quantum level? If this TGD-inspired framework holds any truth, then nature has been employing this advanced form of energy physics for eons, and the blueprint for the next great revolution in our energy technology may not be discovered in a material science lab, but may have been waiting for us all along, inside ourselves.